Good evening, voters. When the BJP came to power in centre in 2014 and when it was voted to power in Assam in 2016, there was one big promise that they made to the citizens and the voters. They said, we will throw out all illegal immigrants. They said, we will finish the work on the National Register of Citizens, especially in Assam, and work for the people of Assam. Well, it looks like there is not much beyond the dramatic speeches that the party is really interested in. Or perhaps they want to milk this opportunity, this same poll plank, one more time this election season. I say this because none other than the Supreme Court of India and the Chief Justice of India slammed the Home Ministry today for delaying the process of NRC. Here is what Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi said, and I quote, "Is it too much to ask that Lok Sabha polls and NRC work should go on simultaneously and peacefully? The Ministry of Home Affairs have been making efforts from the very beginning to destroy the NRC process, it seems. NRC work requires only 167 companies of forces out of the 3,000 overall combined armed police forces that we have. You need 2,700 companies for Lok Sabha polls. So what is the problem?" Now this happened because the centre went again to the Supreme Court and said, please put all the NRC work on hold. We need to deploy these central forces for Lok Sabha. We cannot finish the NRC work on time one more time. So I ask tonight, is the BJP derailing the process, and if so, why? Why was the party unable to deliver on this promise in the past 5 years? And of course, does the entire process of getting the records together and making this list need an overhaul? That's the debate on the other side of this report.
मैं यह बताना चाहूंगा कि हम सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट बिल इसलिए लेकर आए हैं ताकि हमारे 3 पड़ोसी देशों के 6 अल्पसंख्यक समुदायों के माइग्रेंट की संकटपूर्ण परिस्थितियों का निवारण किया जा सके कि यह बिल सिर्फ असम में रह रहे माइग्रेंट्स के लिए नहीं है, न ही यह किसी एक देश से भारत आने वाले माइग्रेंट्स की भलाई के लिए है कि हम नॉर्थ ईस्ट के सभी राज्य के वासियों की आइडेंटिटी एवं कल्चर को प्रिजर्व करने तथा वहां पर शांति बनाए रखने के लिए पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध हैं।
Home Minister Rajnath Singh speaking on the government's efforts to complete the National Register of Citizens. But it seems, while a lot is being said and claimed by the government, the Supreme Court isn't impressed.
This is something significant because remember, this is a process which has been under the supervision of the Supreme Court, and today, Tanvi, the central government essentially went to the Supreme Court to seek suspension of the NRC Assam work from the date of notification of Lok Sabha polls to 2 weeks after voting. This plea of the central government has been rejected by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has shown its earlier firmness to stick by the deadline of July 31st, 2019, and that apart, the Honorable Chief Justice of India completely lashing out at the MHA and also the central government, and I quote here saying that the Ministry of Home Affairs has been making efforts from the beginning to destroy the NRC process, and the Supreme Court is watching. It is all tantamounting to sabotage, unquote. Then the Honorable Chief Justice of India also lashing out at the attorney who was making a representation for the central government to say, and I quote, is it too much to expect for the Lok Sabha work and the NRC work to go on simultaneously? So this has been the extent of the exasperation today, Tanvi, that the Honorable Chief Justice of India also went on to observe, and I quote, we are anguished, we will summon the Home Secretary here, unquote. So clearly this is something which will cause a great amount of embarrassment, Tanvi, to the MHA in particular, because so many times we have heard now from Union Home Minister Rajnath Singh to top central ministers who have said as to how earnest the government is about completion of the NRC, including seeing that all those people who are genuine citizens are not left out of the final NRC list. So therefore, the slamming that they have received today at the hands of the Supreme Court is something they will be very, very disturbed by.
NRC has been one of BJP's big issues, and so the Supreme Court questioning the party's intent has come as an embarrassment.
हमारी सरकार एनआरसी का काम पूरा करने के लिए पूरी तरह से कमिटेड है। हम ये सुनिश्चित करेंगे कि निर्धारित समय के अंदर यह काम पूरा हो जाए और साथ ही हम यह भी सुनिश्चित करेंगे कि एनआरसी में किसी भी भारतीय नागरिक का नाम शामिल होने से छूटने न पाए और किसी भी विदेशी नागरिक का नाम उसमें शामिल न होने पाए, यह भी हम सुनिश्चित करेंगे। सभी कार्रवाइयाँ समय से पूरी हों और निष्पक्ष ढंग से हों, इसके लिए गृह मंत्रालय ने सभी आवश्यक संसाधन और फंड्स राज्य सरकार को उपलब्ध कराए हैं।
An issue over which thousands have lost their lives, the National Register of Citizens is being updated in Assam for the first time since 1951. Out of 3 crore odd applicants, 2 crore odd applicants have been found eligible for inclusion in final draft of NRC. But names of over 40 lakh people have been left out. As the debate rages on the implementation of this critical list that will determine the fates of thousands, we ask, is the government only interested in creating noise and not really working on the implementation of NRC? Debate begins now.
Let's say good evening to our panelists. Deepak Devan, senior journalist, joining us this evening. Karan Anandi, lawyer with the Supreme Court. Upmanyu Hazarika, senior advocate also with the Supreme Court. Geeta Bhatt, an RSS supporter and academician. Kancham Tiwari, spokesperson for the Samajwadi Party. You'll also have Nani Gopal Mohanto, professor with the Guwahati University, with us very shortly. But let me go across to Charu Pragya of the BJP first and ask her this question. Charu Pragya, won't the voters ask you that are you trying to fool us, that you keep making these promises, but then you keep going back to the Supreme Court and asking for extensions on this deadline? Are you not serious about the National Register of Citizens?
Tanvi, the party and the government both remain very firm on all that they have said, and all efforts are going to be made to do this in the quickest possible time. Now, my question is this: why this huge hue and cry? The time given by the Supreme Court to the government is up till the 31st of July, which is approximately 6 months from now. The government has only asked for an extension of 2 weeks. So we already have 6 months in hand. When we are asking for an extension of a mere 2 weeks to make it 6.5 months, is it such a huge deal? Does it mean the government is not committed, or does it mean the government is going back on its word? You analyze it, you tell me.
Are you telling that to me, or is that something you would want to tell the Chief Justice of India, who is actually the one who is really, really angry today? And let me also remind you and our viewers that this is not the first extension that your government has sought. This must be the third, if not fourth, extension of deadline that the government has sought. The last few times you got it. Now, I don't understand why is it that in 5 years at the center and now almost 3 years in the state, you've still not managed to do this if your party feels so dearly about it. It's such an important issue. Or is it just because you want to use it for another election round? It's just an election agenda.
No, definitely not. Weren't these very same people who are criticizing it today were the ones who said, why is BJP doing this? So BJP is the one which got the NRC. BJP is the one which started speaking about it in the very beginning. And you have to understand, it is a complex procedure. It is not just a simple process of elimination that you go there and you can do it overnight. And yes, I agree, the Chief Justice was a little upset, but that is his prerogative. I am just telling you the party's logic, I'm telling you the government's logic, and I'm telling you my logic, which seems to make sense to most of the people. So when you have 6 months and you believe that another 15 days is going to help you a lot, I don't see the reason for anybody to make a big hue and cry about this. Also, we have to understand that general elections for our country are just around the corner. More than 50,000 state government employees are going to be deployed for these elections, which are also needed for the same NRC work. So we cannot have these very same people, remove their focus from even one of these objectives. We need our people to be alert and to be present. also the paramilitary forces which are going to be deployed for the NRC work. So we have to also understand it's a crucial time in our country. Both the issues are extremely important, and if a little bit of time, only 15 days where 6 months we already have in hand, is going to help the government so much, I don't see any harm in it.
Okay, well, obviously the Supreme Court doesn't buy that excuse that you needed these forces for the Lok Sabha polls, and they've actually put out the whole math. When you have 3,000 companies and you need 2,700 for the Lok Sabha elections, then why do you need to withdraw 167 from the state of Assam? But I want to go across to the rest of our panelists and ask them their opening comments as well on this. Let me start with Ghanshyam Tiwari, spokesperson for the Samajwadi Party. Ghanshyam Tiwari, is this just another of those election issues that parties remember really when they want to ask for votes, and then they keep on dragging it, as this issue has been dragged on now for decades?
For 40 lakh people who are on the receiving end of BJP politics under NRC, this is a matter of survival. This is a matter of life. For those who are detained in 6 camps, it's a matter of life. For a number of bureaucrats, very respected bureaucrats across the country, who have written an open letter, this is a matter of constitution and conscience. And most importantly, for BJP, everything that Charu says, with all due respect, one, she said we don't want to politicize. Right from Amit Shah to every major spokespersons of Bharatiya Janata Party in the last 1 year or last 6 months at least have sought to politicize this issue. So yes, they want to politicize. Second, are they prepared? They are not, because they are busy playing politics on it. What was the rationale on one end to do a high-pitched political drama, and on the other end saying that we are not prepared in the Supreme Court? 3, have they taken NDA along? No. JDU in Guwahati met a number of political and civil organizations and clearly said that the government is on the wrong track in this. The court is unhappy. People are unhappy. This creates a new class of untouchables of the Indian state, because BJP wants to bring
up issues.
Sorry?
Yes, okay. Finish your point, and then I'll go to Deepak Devan, who says that you're mixing up the different issues. But finish your point, Ghanshyam.
I have said so. I have said so. He's mixing up points.
Oh, all right. I stand corrected. Then Mr. Hazarika, I'll come to you.
With respect to NRC.
Yes. See.
Sure, you'll get your chance, sir. So I'm saying that right. I did not mix up the issue when I said BJP politicized it in high pitch right from the level of Amit Shah. Is that wrong? Second, that NDA is a divided house on this. Am I wrong? Third, that political organizations with serious stake in the Northeast are divided on this. Fourth, the BJP government built no trust. In fact, they targeted neighboring state governments like Mamata Banerjee's government on this issue. Am I wrong? See, clearly it is the BJP that is in the dock because they wanted to play politics, and they are not able to do so because of their own inefficiency and dishonesty.
Okay, Upmanyu Hazarika, senior advocate with the Supreme Court,
I think
has
we should
a different point of view. Yes, go ahead.
Since I happen to have dealt with this subject, let me get the facts on board. Yeah, you see, it's like this. First, let's get the facts right. What is the NRC about? You are shifting out citizens and non-citizens. And what are the facts? Because you see, the timelines have been extended. The earlier timeline, which was given originally by the Supreme Court, was 2016. Then it kept getting extended for multiple reasons. Now, the Supreme Court's anguish on this issue of why the government is dragging its feet comes from a series of factors. Firstly, the government did not, central government, state government were not releasing funds for NRC personnel. That's how the process got delayed and stymied. Then when the draft list came out, then they were asking for various relaxations. But there is one thing which I want to give, and because everybody in the rest of the country thinks that this whole lot of foreigners should be thrust upon us, and that nobody else is going to take the burden. First, let me, what are the essential facts? UPA government, Sri Prakash Jaiswal says in 2004 that there are 50 lakh illegal migrants in Assam. Kiren Rijiju in 2016 says that there are 80 lakh migrants in Assam, and these are statements in Parliament. What gets excluded from the NRC? Only a figure of 40 odd lakhs, which means there are 40 odd lakhs, additional 40 odd lakhs are still continue to be on the list. So the accent should be on the correct NRC, that those who have been excluded, those who have been included in the NRC, there should be a re-verification. Because please understand, Assam has a population today of 3.25 odd crores. 80 lakh foreigners, which is post 71 migrants, because mind you, for the rest of the country, the cutoff date for grant of citizenship is 19 July 1948 for erstwhile migrants from Pakistan and Bangladesh, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. For Assam, after the Assam movement, we took on a burden of 23 years of additional migrants, and we agreed to give citizenship up to 25th of March 1971. So we have 23 years of additional migrants, that's one. After 71, there are 80 lakhs who are today 25% of the population. Demographic trends and demographic projections are very clear. 3 independent studies. We indigenous turn into a minority by 2040, 2047 or 2051. That is the state of affairs. And now what is the politics in this? Now the politics in this is that 90% of the migrants, because they are Muslims, they have always been a vote bank for the Congress and the other parties, because you will always find them aligned accordingly. Now, which is why the Congress dragged its feet on this whole thing. In fact, it was only under the Supreme, because though this NRC was mooted in 2009 itself, where it got stymied, the pilot project was stymied by the burning down of the district magistrate's office in Barpeta. The then state government didn't do anything, the central government didn't do anything. Then it eventually started off by monitoring under the Supreme Court supervision. Now the present government, which is doing so, it is unfortunately, I don't know for what reasons it is, but there doesn't seem to be very competent people on the ground which are carrying out this exercise, for which reason the whole exercise seems to have got extended. And in fact, there has been a lot of huge amount of subversion in the NRC. 40 lakhs foreigners have already got in. Out of the 40 lakhs who have been excluded, where the rest of the country is making a hue and cry on human rights. Nobody concerns about the human rights of indigenous people. 115 ethnic communities are on the way to becoming a minority. Nobody else is concerned about that, because it all becomes a vote bank politics.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Zarika.
Therefore, the priority has to be now one.
Okay, so, thank you for, and I appreciate that you put it in perspective for all our viewers. I know, I have a question for you. Thank you for putting it in perspective for all our viewers and telling them what the timeline and the situation is right now. Let me ask you this question. Are you disappointed with the way this government has handled it? Like you said, everybody knew what the other political parties did or didn't do. Of course, the NRC was first brought in during the Congress's era. Of course, it was reintroduced and the entire thing was put back on track during the Manmohan Singh's era. But what about the BJP now?
No, I am disappointed. In fact, I must tell you, I have personally, because I was appointed as a commission by the Supreme Court, so I cannot file any petitions, but I personally made 4 representations to the Registrar General of India, pointing out discrepancies in the NRC, pointing out how it has been subverted in the border districts and migrant dominated districts, where a large number of migrants have gotten, because the border districts of Assam has shown disproportionate increase in population, but the least exclusion in the NRC. So there's been huge subversion of this. So, and this government, which is state government and the central government, have to squarely take the blame for this, because they permitted the subversion.
So Charu Pragya, do note this, because I will come to you for a response.
With the correct NRC, whether it takes a year, 6 months is not the issue.
Okay, Charu Pragya, do take a note of this, because I will come to you for a response, but I just want to go across to all our other panelists. Deepak Devan, the question to you is, do you think maybe this current government has become a little nervous? They don't want this sensitive issue to be spoken about anymore, at least until the election season, in the light of what happened once the Citizenship Bill was introduced, and there's been so much of backlash, widespread protests across Northeast, not just in Assam. They just don't want to touch this issue for a while now. Is that why they're seeking another extension?
Well, I think so. See, the thing is, the government at the center is also looking at some votes. A section of, I would not like to name the community, they are also eyeing the vote bank for this 2019 elections. Maybe that's why I fail to understand. Maybe Charu can answer my question. What was the need of bringing Citizen Bill when you had not completed the NRC in the region? Number one. See, if you look at the demand of other neighboring states of Assam, they are all demanding NRC in their respective states.
Right.
Charu, my question is to you.
Yeah, sorry, there is a little lapse in the hearing where I am. So no, are you trying to say that the government was wrong in bringing the citizenship bill? Because we have to understand the government has limited resources. India has limited resources which must be kept for Indians, for legitimate Indians, not for infiltrants into India. So I believe the government was absolutely right in doing what it did. NRC is an ongoing process. I understand. I was also hearing the complaints from the previous panelists. Sir, I want to just ask you one more thing. When the government has 6 months in hand, you are already saying the government is doing this. Do 15 days matter so much? That is my question here. Does it matter so much that you make it a focal point of debate today? And
No, it's not
citizenship
just
bill
a
is
focal point of
extremely
debate
important
today.
for
We've had a
Indians,
series of
because like I
debates.
said, we can't be spreading ourselves too thin where our resources are concerned. These are national resources which belong to the people of India, and they must not be misused.
But you don't believe the same when it comes to the citizenship bill, where you've made an exception for immigrants of and so refugees from different countries.
Absolutely.
So isn't that double standards then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There is a difference between refugees and illegal immigrants into India. You cannot equate the two.
Okay.
Refugees are people you are allowing willingly into your country. You're giving them refuge. Illegal immigrants you cannot equate them with refugees.
So, and your definition of your refugee policy,
they are taking away resources which are to be used for the citizens of our country. Whether it is ration, whether it is any other facility an Indian is going to get.
well, Charupragya, I think the point is that your party is failing to understand that in Northeast, in Assam and many other states, people are angry with your party because they are asking the question, how can you put anybody on power with the citizen of your own country? And how can you decide whether it has to whether a Hindu is okay and a Muslim is not okay? The problem and the discontent within the local and the indigenous Assamese people has been about non-Assamese. And nobody else, and then they don't differentiate on the basis of religion. So, your party does.
There have been debates and Tanvi, there have been debates and discussions about this, and that's exactly why when there was a parliamentary committee which was working on the citizenship bill, it repeatedly visited Assam. It met a lot of stakeholders there. It met leaders. It met people from all walks and all professions, and they tried to put together the best possible solution to the government. We have to understand anything like the citizenship bill cannot be drawn up by a set of people who are not involved in the local things that go on in the Northeast. So that was being taken care of. So yes, I do say that my party.
That's exactly the point. Look at the kind of protests that have happened over citizenship bill.
Your ally at the center, JDU, said they were not consulted.
Your own ally in Assam dumped you
has left you
because they weren't happy with the policy. But okay,
series of meetings with all the stakeholders.
I have two more panelists who haven't spoken yet. So I'll just go across to Karuna Nandi first and then to Geeta. But Karuna Nandi, there are two issues here, of course. First issue is that here is a party that spoke a lot and made tall promises to the people of Assam and how they're going to do justice to them and deliver on their demands of throwing out the immigrants. That's not happened. And finally, when they did come out with a policy, Karuna, even that policy has been opposed by people in Assam itself.
I think it's a good point, Tanvi, because while the Supreme Court, of course, the directions in principle are, how can they be, how can any doubt be cast upon them when you are essentially saying that citizens should be sifted from non-citizens? The problem is that, you know, our courts, our constitutional courts have a limited amount of time, and obviously they can't run government, right? Unfortunately, in this particular case, the devil is very much in the detail. And so we see a situation where the nephew of Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, Ziauddin Ali Ahmed, for example, and his family have been left out of the NRC certification and essentially would be declared non-citizens. And again, people like Adil Hussain, the actor, and Adil Hussain's family are in some difficulty. Then a fellow anchor of yours from another channel, her family. So lots of people who have been there for a long, long time are being left out. Now, the problem with this exclusion of 40 lakhs is manifold. First, the fact that the last I looked at this issue and I looked at the classification of how you decide whether somebody is citizen or not, one big problem was that they were distinguishing between what they called original inhabitants and non-original inhabitants, right?
Yes.
Without any adequate means of telling who is an original inhabitant and who is a non-original inhabitant. So what happens then, and this is why Mamata Banerjee is up in arms and saying that, look, we'll accept the Bengalis, is that people who are Bengali speaking and Hindi speaking, Bengali whether Hindu or Muslim, and Hindi speaking and people who looked a little bit Nepali, say, right? So whether you're from Darjeeling, etc., if you're Gorkha, you very much be Indian, were therefore being excluded. So you have therefore lives being destroyed and potentially being destroyed, and people's lives being put in limbo, children, women, men. And also the risk is massive, because the risk is that you become stateless. Now, the thing is that this is, of course, a very difficult problem, because in Assam, I think people are feeling particularly besieged, because while the population of India has grown at a rate of 350% approximately, in Assam it's been over 600%.
Yes.
Right? And so I think people are feeling a bit besieged by the influx of sort of lots of other cultures and lots of other people. But I also think that there are perhaps other ways to look at it when the risk is a whole bunch of people becoming stateless and you don't have proper due process on the ground to sift whether somebody is a citizen or not. I mean, ask the average person, forget Bulandshahr, ask the average person in a urban village in Delhi, or even in one of our rich colonies, ask one of the poorer people to produce a document to identify who they are. Many people will not be able to do so. So for people then, to be able to lose the right to even be in this country, to be in their country, is sort of desperate and tragic.
So in fact, to the point that you're making, Karuna,
if that influx could be sort of distributed in other parts of the country, then making people stateless is something that perhaps could be avoided. And the Supreme Court did extend the number of documents that you could use from 10 to 15 to identify yourself, but it's still very, very difficult.
Yes.
So
in fact, there was a letter that was written.
What's happening on the ground is, I think, a travesty.
In fact, there was a letter that was written by 48 retired bureaucrats, and in this letter they said there is a real fear among those excluded, overwhelmingly from minority groups, Muslims and Hindus of Bengali descent, besides Nepali and Hindi-speaking people, among them a large percentage of women and children and daily wage workers constituting the poorest of the poor, that they might be rendered stateless. Although the NRC process is being monitored by Supreme Court, we believe that there has been a little informed debate in the country on the NRC updation that affects lives of lakhs of people. 1 minute, please. Let me just finish this point. Mr. Hazarika, I will come to you. Let me just finish this point, please. The letter goes on to say the large exclusion of names from the draft NRC is the outcome of a mix of procedural and capacity weaknesses of the NRC state coordinator, and has been much reported about. The shortcomings include poor record management, technical glitches, and arbitrary physical verifications, amongst others. So who's to say who's managed to get included in this list and who's been excluded in the list, who really deserves to be in this list? Geeta Bhatt, do you believe that we've ended up making a mess of this entire process here, that despite the seemingly overwhelming political willingness to deliver on this, we are not doing so?
Yeah, Tanvi, see, when we discuss about NRC, and specifically when the Assam is being discussed, you see, Assam has got a very special status because that is one state which has borne the influx of illegal immigrants like no other states. And it has been unfortunate that, the political parties who were in governance, they just could not, realize the sensitivity of this issue. And we are already seeing the damage that has done to the demography of Assam, which has been put forward by some other panelists before. But what is important is, see, this is a very NRC, it is a very complex issue because there is a lot of baggage which is attached to it. Not going too deep into it, but at least we can refer to the point in early 1970s when, you know, in the Mangaldoy constituency case, you know, that is where this actually started, and there was this uprising regarding the citizenship of Assam. But we also have to realize that, you know, the fiascos that have been done while dealing with this sensitive subject by the previous governments, when it needs to be resolved, and if an initiative has been taken by the present dispensation in the center and by the state, there must be some lapses. I totally agree, but the point is we have to understand that everything is happening under the monitoring of the Supreme Court. So there is the Supreme Court is closely monitoring, seeing that how it is going on, and of course there are certain lapses which you also read out, which are there, which could be because of some human errors. And there are some people who might have been left out who are genuine people.
This is that are determining these people's fates.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I just please finish? I did not interfere in it. Let us not forget the Assam Accord in 1985. Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, it was very much decided by in the Assam Accord that the citizens will be divided into 3 categories. And those between December 1966 to March 1977, for those 10 years, they will be defranchised for 10 years. And those who came after 1971 will be sent back, you know, those who are identified. You know, but how much of it got executed, in the last 3 decades?
It didn't. It didn't get executed in the last 3 decades. It didn't get executed in the last 5 years. And now the current government has gone to Supreme Court and said we need more time.
Between the center and the state.
Yes, okay. All our panelists want to come in and make points. I'm going to go quickly across one by one. Mr. Hazarika wanted to make a point. Go ahead, Mr. Hazarika first, and then to the other panelists.
You see, the reason why the Supreme Court, I mean, it got irritated, and that's my reading, is because time and again the governments have dragged their feet.
Yes.
So it is not a question of a mere extension of 15 days. If it was just a question of mere extension of 15 days, then probably they wouldn't have got irritated. But the point is, at every stage, the court has been making an endeavor, fixing timelines, and extension has always been sought at the last minute on various grounds. And obviously, it doesn't suit any incumbent government to have a final NRC because it has various implications. A large number of their voters may be left out. And secondly, I want to respond to those 46 bureaucrats having written that communication. Not a single one of them belongs to Assam. Harsh Mandar, I know for a fact, or the Northeast, they are all from the rest of the country, orchestrated. And let me tell you, we are today a victim of this whole politics in India, which is basically now gone on to this communal Hindu versus Muslim thing.
Yes.
Because a large number of the migrants are Muslim, they have been backed by earlier governments. Now the BJP wants to come and keep the Hindu ones. Now, as a result, neither of them have gone out, and the proof of the pudding is in the eating. In the NRC, only 40 lakhs have been excluded. Out of that 40 lakhs exclusion, the final figures are not going to be less than 10 lakhs.
Okay,
so the whole exercise, about 70 lakh foreigners will become citizens, and those 46 odd bureaucrats are talking to their hat. They only, Harsh Mandar and co, I already know.
Charu Pragya can respond to that, and then to Ghanshyam Tiwari and Karuna. Yes, Charu Pragya can respond to it because it was specifically about what the government is doing.
Thank you. Because much of it is just incorrect.
Tanvi, I want to respond on 2 counts. The most important thing here is this is not about Hindu-Muslim. This is about the welfare of the country as a whole. This is about Indians and what is best for India. So let us please not make this about Hindus and Muslims, because it is absolutely not that. The second thing is, out of the 40 lakh who've been excluded, only 3.5 have moved the court. So 3.5 lakhs have moved the court. There was a deadline which was extended by the Supreme Court, and that is being looked into. So anybody who felt has not been included and has the right reasons to move the court, they have done so. So please let us look at anything like this with a larger perspective and with a nationalist heart. Please let us understand that anything which is being done for NRC or during the time the Citizenship Bill was being moved is for the greater good of the nation, and we must remember that first.
Okay, but the fact of the matter is you've not managed to do it now. You've even put the Citizenship Bill on the back burner. It never made it to the upper house because of the backlash that's happened there. So at the end of the day, it comes down to vote bank politics, not really about what genuinely people want. Karuna Nandi wanted to make certain points about what Mr. Hazarika was saying, and then Ghanshyam, I'm coming to you.
I think the problem with what Mr. Hazarika is saying is that there's a large amount of presumption there, which is that what he is presuming is that the people who are being excluded are in fact non-citizens. That is one presumption. And the second is that it's just, it's just a sort of easy open and shut process, which is just absolutely not. And he seems to have no sort of imagination of the citizen of this country. And there I agree with the BJP spokesperson. Is that, are you only allowed to speak about Assam when you are Assamese? Are you only allowed to care about Assamese people when you are Assamese? If there are Bengali people who are being excluded, are only Bengalis allowed to care about those Bengali people? I mean, surely this is not what our country is based on.
Here's the question of foreigners versus citizens.
No, Mr. Hazarika, she is responding. Mr. Hazarika, she is responding to the point that you made about the retired bureaucrats and how none of them are from Assam. Mr. Hazarika, calm down, please. I know this is a topic which is close to your heart.
On that is perfectly correct. The point on citizenship, I think, is perfectly correct. And also people who are speaking against the NRC from Assam, let us be clear about that, are being demonized in a manner that is like people like Akhil Gogoi, people like other sort of prominent intellectuals are being charged with sedition, for any dissenting view. And so let us be clear that the people from Assam who have a different view are being demonized in a particular manner.
What is she going
on?
Now
the second thing is, Mr. Hazarika, please. Now, what Charu was saying, however, so I agree with her there, but what she was saying on a different footing is that she was saying that let us be nationalist about this. That look, a lot of these people who are suffering are our own citizens.
Yes.
So if we are not going to care about the children of this country who are in danger of being rendered stateless,
yes,
then really what is this nation about?
I know this is...
Our nationalism should be directed towards our citizens.
And I know this is slightly sensitive, but on a humanitarian ground, I also believe that when this policy and when this accord was struck and this decision was made and the deadline was made of 71, times were different, and 40 years later, you perhaps have to rethink even on that, because those people have lived here for 40 years, they have had families here, they have worked here, they have children here. Those children were born in this country, and now because our political parties failed to deliver on this NRC in these 40 years, we are actually saying, let's wake up now and throw all of them out, which I find a little unacceptable as an Indian. That's not really part of my DNA. But I'm going to go across to Ghanshyam Tiwari, who had a point, and then Mr. Deepak Dirwan.
Take them in Europe. Let the rest of the country share the burden.
Why let the rest of the country share the burden. I completely agree with you, Mr. Hazarika.
115 ethnic communities.
I completely agree with you, Mr. Hazarika. They should be spread out across the country, but for that, the government needs to have a concrete...
4,000 who are turning into a minority.
I agree with you. I understand how it's changing the situation in Assam,
even in this,
but that's a problem with another kind of policy that the government needs to bring in. Yes, by all means, take them and spread them across the country, include them in this society, and make them officially part of it. That's my view. Ghanshyam Tiwari, go ahead, please.
Well, clearly in this debate also, Mr. Hazarika in his passionate plea sets the grammar, the facts of discussion, and says that when are we going into wrong issues, whereas these are interconnected issues. And you can be insensitive, but the reality is playing out. How many of these 40 lakhs are children? Look at the people who are in detention camps. Are these detention camps properly kept? See, you cannot penalize 40 lakh people just because the past government did not do its job. Penalize the political parties. But at the other end, you have another political party, which is the ruling party, which plays into rhetoric. When Amit Shah, Yogi Adityanath together saying that hum Ghuspaitiye ko bhaga denge, who are they talking about? They are talking about the meek children and women who are now at the receiving end of a lax process. And when Mr. Hazarika says that these 46 senior bureaucrats who have real stake in the constitution, in the way we as citizens look at how the country is run. They have no stake in Assam. You are off track. The reality is that this BJP government should not have politicized this issue in this fierce manner if they were not up to the mark with respect to their process. That they are not up to the mark with respect to the process. They failed to build consensus, makes it even a more complex issue than it already is.
Yes. Mr. Diwan wanted to come in. Go ahead, please, Mr. Diwan. You wanted to make a point, and then Charu.
The point on politicization is very well taken,
once again.
Tanvi.
I want to ask Charu once again.
1 minute, please. 1 minute, please. Deepak Diwan.
Regain the confidence of the people of Northeast. How your party is going to regain the confidence of the people of Northeast? Again.
Okay, Charu Pragya, to you, to what Ghanshyam Tiwari said, and the question that Deepak Diwan is asking you.
Yes, so I've heard both their questions, Tanvi, and I want to respond by saying one thing which I have been repeating since the very beginning. One, you have to look at everything from a larger perspective. You have to remember what is most important for our country. We have to look at India first, and then we get into any other details. That's the first thing. The second thing is Ghanshyamji is talking about the process is not being fixed. Ghanshyamji, let me also remind you that while we were working on the process, we have been talking to the stakeholders. So everybody who is a stakeholder from that part of the country is involved in the process and in the decision making. So please do not worry. The government is making sure that everybody's interests are being safeguarded. And the third thing is that when we come up
everybody's
with
interest is being safeguarded. Everybody's interest is being safeguarded except those people, lakhs of those people who are not able to furnish you the details, who are not able to furnish you documents that you're asking from 50 years ago, who are not able to prove to you that they are actually genuine citizens, Charu Pragya. How can you say everybody's interest is being protected? What about the children who have been born in this country and have lived there all their lives, 30, 35 years, Charu Pragya?
That is being looked into. You have to,
so that's not part of your policy.
I go back to saying that there has to be one measuring yardstick. You cannot keep changing it for people. You cannot keep changing it. You have to see what is good as a policy for your country as a whole. You cannot be setting precedents and then changing it every single day. Nobody from the government, nobody from the party has gone back on their word. What was important then is important today. Safeguarding our borders is important. Making sure our resources are used widely and wisely for the people of our country is very important.
Of course, but when it comes to Hindu refugees, then you don't remember about the natural resources of Assam. Then you completely forget about the indigenous communities of Meghalaya and Nagaland and Andhra Pradesh, because then it is about your vote bank politics and about the Hindu vote bank. I think what this has done is completely exposed the BJP tonight, and you heard it even from people who've been fighting for the NRC, who've been fighting for the rights of Assamese and indigenous Assamese over other communities and immigrants and illegal immigrants, to say that even this government has failed to deliver on this. Now the government must explain to us why they were unable to properly carry out this process in the past 5 years. Why is it that we are still looking at a list which has issues that the Supreme Court is fed up with dealing with the government, and then on one hand you're coming out with citizenship policies that are based on religion, on the other hand you're not able to even make a single list of record of your own citizens. As the BJP thing, it's just a poll plank that they can use over and over again, perhaps like the Ram Mandir, where they're not really interested in a resolution, but just interested in creating some noise. I believe that those who have now lived here for 40 years deserve to be part of our country. We cannot, on a humanitarian basis, throw them out one fine day. If it is impacting a small region in the state of Assam or anywhere else, then take them and spread them out across this country. But we cannot be that India that closes its doors to the people who come to us seeking shelter. If the political parties and the governments in the 70s and the 80s fail to send these illegal immigrants back, it's too late. You have now gone on for 40 years. Strengthen your borders now so you stop this problem. Have we even done that? No, we haven't. We are only interested in raising political noise about it. Thank you for joining us on this debate. Completely out of time on this edition of The Last Word. Have a good night.